This is the 6th lesson in a big series where I'm teaching the top 25 jazz standards for guitar players. Studying real songs on the guitar is critical for our musical development to help us understand the language of harmony, song structure, melodic phrasing, and so much more. And jazz standards are some of the most masterfully crafted songs of all time, which is why I'm doing this series. If you learn the jazz standards in this series, you will not only majorly level up your musicianship, you'll be able to play music with almost anyone in the world who plays any amount of jazz, because every jazz player at any level will know at least a couple of these jazz standards, if not most of them. So if you're interested in playing jazz guitar, then you are definitely in the right place. There's a link to a playlist of this entire series in the description. Please watch the first video at some point because I explain a lot more about how this series works and how it's structured. If you are liking the series so far, or if you just found it from this video and you're excited, please leave a comment below. I can't tell you how much that will help more students find these lessons and find this series who want to learn about these songs. And the more people who know these songs, the better, because you might actually jam with one of those people someday. Plus, I just love to hear from you and it really helps the channel. So thank you so much for leaving comments on my videos. The song we're going to learn today is number 6 out of the top 25 jazz standards for guitar players, and the song is All of Me. Not All of Me, the pop song by John Legend, which was a huge hit maybe 10 years ago or so as of when I'm filming this video. All of Me, the classic jazz standard. Here's what we're going to cover in this lesson. First, I'll tell you about the song All of Me and why it's worth learning. Then I'll teach you the melody by clearly demonstrating it on the guitar with notation and tab on the screen, showing you exactly where on the fretboard I recommend first learning how to play this melody. I will show you the scales that the melody comes from. I'll teach you the All of Me guitar chords by demonstrating both the easiest chord shapes and the most common chord shapes for this song, all with chord diagrams on the screen. I'll teach you the scales you can use to improvise over All of Me. I will give you both a complete version of the scales and a simplified version of the scales, all with demonstrations and scale diagrams on the screen, showing you exactly where on the fretboard I recommend mastering them, and I will demonstrate the improvisation using them as well. Every lesson in this series includes a unique piece of advice for how to truly internalize a jazz standard on the guitar, so I will share that. All of Me is one of the most popular and widely performed jazz standards of all time. It was written in 1931 by Gerald Marks and Seymour Simons, and it quickly became a huge hit in the early 1930s. Over the decades, it's been recorded by countless jazz greats, including Billie Holiday, Louis Armstrong, Frank Sinatra, Charlie Parker, and so many more, and it's still played constantly today in jam sessions, gigs, recordings, everywhere. All of Me is one of my favorite standards personally. I just love this tune. It's such a valuable tune to learn. It's built on really classic and functional chord progressions. It's not a blues, it's not modal. It uses what we can call the American songbook style of harmony, meaning it's driven by strong chord movement, a clear melody, and a very singable form. And that's exactly why it is such a crowd pleaser almost 100 years later after it was first a hit. It has a timeless, universal appeal that people just love, and I absolutely love it as well. Here's the melody with tab. I will demonstrate it also in a second. I like playing it up an octave. You can also play it down an octave from here, and you can play any melody, higher or lower, really anywhere you want. And you can be very loose with the melody too, which is one of the tips I'll bring up in this series somewhere. But I'm demonstrating exactly as it's written out, and you can practice it along with me that way. But also you can be very loose. If you hear anyone play a classic standard, they're usually being pretty loose with the melody, having fun with it rhythmically or even adding notes. But wanted to point out here that I like to stay in the 5th position as much as possible. That's why I have 8th fret here, and that's what you would play with your pinky, and then 8th fret with your pinky, and then 5th fret. So you're in the 5th position, or as close to it as you can be. But because this melody is up higher, we're going to go up quite a bit above that sometimes. The second to last note is going all the way up to the 12th fret, but then otherwise I'm going right back down to that fifth position area as quickly as possible. That's because that's where I like to master all my scales and arpeggios and chord tones and melodies and know everything there, so I can really fluently play in every key on every song there. And by doing that, I've covered every single scale, shape, and piece of vocabulary that I need, and I can then play all over the fretboard with that same information. It's a system I've been using for a long time that really works. So that just explains why I like to kind of jump say like up here 8 10 8, but then go back down on that same string and get back. So you can play it a little easier if you don't do that, and feel free to move it around for yourself as well. With the melody, I like to look at what scale it comes from. This is mostly in the key of C. We have some outside notes in a few places, but otherwise it's really in the key of C with some different chords that are kind of targeting chords that are coming next, and that's that kind of functional American songbook harmony that I was talking about. Also, always take a look at the thematic material that's happening in a melody. So we have the ba-ba-da, we have that. And, if you're a composer at all, but if you're an improviser, which I'm guessing you are or want to be, then that is some of the most powerful stuff you can pay attention to with written melodies. Da da da, and then we have da da da, and then ba da, and then da da da. So it's really repeating this rhythm and following the harmony with it melodically. I mean, it's the most lyrical way you can play or compose ever. So I always like to point those things out a little bit, and you'll hear that, especially now that I pointed it out. Let's move on to the demonstration. Now I'll play you the All of Me melody, and I encourage you to use this section to practice along with my demonstration until you have it down. There will be guitar tab and notation on the screen as I play, so you can see exactly where on the fretboard I recommend first learning how to play this melody. Here it is at 175 beats per minute. Now I'll play you two different versions of the All of Me guitar chords. I will play you each chord once each time a chord changes, and I'll show you the chord shape diagrams on the screen. I encourage you to practice along with these demonstrations as you are working on getting the chords down. First, I'll play you the chords using the simplest chord shapes possible. These are often called shell voicings, and they are widely used in jazz. There's a link to a video all about shell voicings if you want to learn more. That's in the description. Here's the demonstration of those chords at 175 beats per minute. Now I'll play you the most common guitar shapes for the All of Me chords. These have an extra note in them and they'll fill out the sound a little more. These are the most common shapes for in a jazz context. Also, people will play this song since it's such a popular song with open string chords or triads without sevenths, but these are the most common jazz guitar chord shapes that you can play on this song. This demonstration is also at 175 beats per minute. me share a quick comping secret for jazz guitar for a swing feel, because this is an early 30s swing tune, and it feels really good with this kind of comping feel. And the secret is on the 2 and the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. You want to emphasize and accent that 2 and 4. And the 1 and the 3, you can really have it be so light. That is the secret if you want to do this in a swing style or get that feel anytime, rather than that's all the same volume. It doesn't work. It doesn't get that groove that you want on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So you want to emphasize that backbeat. Makes all the difference in the world. Just a little side tip for comping on a song like this. Next, I'll show you 2 different options for the scales you need to be able to play to improvise and solo over the All of Me chord progression. I will demonstrate and show you diagrams of all the scales in one specific overlapping position on the fretboard, which is where I highly recommend that you learn to improvise with them before worrying about mastering your scales in all your other positions on the guitar. I'll demonstrate the scales up and down, and I will also demonstrate improvising with them. All right, here's my complete scales sheet that just shows the scale that the chord comes from. So every chord comes from a scale. What scale does it come from? That's the scale you can use to improvise over it. And the complete scales is really just accurately what does every single chord come from. The simplified scales that I'll show you next are ignoring things on purpose, which is very common to do. It's great to work on being able to improvise both ways. So C major, it's in the key of C major scale, default C major scale. Because the whole thing is in the key of C and kind of surrounding that key. This we've seen several times in this series. If you've seen other videos in this jazz standard series, and this is anytime you're studying any jazz harmony, this is so common that you're going to have a dominant 7th chord leading to a minor chord. Oops, that's not a minor chord. Why did I say that? Because this is usually in the key of C, would be A minor. So this is C major, E7. This is the 5 of A minor. Again, you're going to see this a lot as you study this more. If that's new to you, that's okay, because you're going to see it so much. So this is the 5 chord of minor, so it's A harmonic minor. That's just straight up the scale this comes from. So that's the scale, A harmonic minor. But we get psyched out here because we don't land on A minor, we land on A7. So we're doing a string of these because now this is the 5 of D minor, and this is leading to that. So now this is D harmonic minor. So C major, A harmonic minor, D harmonic minor, and then we land on the 2 chord of C major. So just C major scale is what you can play here. You know, if people are thinking modally ever, then they can think of D as the root there, and that would be D Dorian. C major, same thing. Then we go to what's happened here again, E7, A harmonic minor. This time it doesn't psych us out. It actually delivers on landing on the actual A minor. You could think of that as A natural minor or C major. Those are the exact same scales as each other. They are modes of each other. That's what a mode is. Then we go to D7, which is not in the key of C. It is the 5 chord of G major, so G major is the scale. But then we turn it into D minor and we go to G7, and these are just from C major scale. This is from C major scale. Here we have that same thing again, A harmonic minor, D harmonic minor, C major. All of that happened before. This F6 is from C major, so we keep playing C major scale. F minor 6, this is my favorite harmonic spot in this. This is a beautiful chord movement to go 4 chord, minor 4, and then back to the major. The scale here is F melodic minor. That's what this comes from. And then back to C major for the C major chord. And then D melodic minor. You can also do D harmonic minor here. There's a reason I say melodic minor, because one note is different. You can also just do harmonic minor there. And then C major, C major, C major. Oh, E flat diminished chord. So just an E flat diminished scale is what I'd recommend there. And then C major. Okay, well, all of this is pretty cushy, and you can play this song at a slower tempo than what I have. I have it at 175 beats per minute because it is played as kind of a faster swing tune a lot of times. That's roughly the tempo that Django Reinhardt played it at. So I like that feel for it. But you have a lot of space here. You have 2 measures each for all of these changes. So it's a great song to study and practice this on. You can even just practice this first section and repeat that over and over to get a lot of practice at a slower tempo to change those scales. Here's where it gets crazy down here with all those changes if you're playing at a fast tempo and you have to kind of work on all of those scales. But let's not get ahead of ourselves because I'll show you the simplified scale version in a second, but let me show you these scale demonstrations and an improvisation demonstration using these. So the C major scale is this. That's the collection of notes. C is the root here, but we're going to play that for, when D is the root and when G is the root. So just think of it as that collection of notes. A harmonic minor is this. D harmonic minor is this. If you think of that with A as the root, the fifth mode of harmonic minor is called Phrygian dominant, just for fun, little side tip theory thing there. Same scale notes, it's just that you treat A as the root. So that's D harmonic minor. I'm going through the complete scales list here. Next is C major, which we covered, then A harmonic minor again, which we covered. A natural minor is the same thing as C major, so same collection of notes. Then there's G major, and that's this. That's the collection of notes of D major. D is the root of the chord. G is the root of the scale. Just think of it as that collection of notes. Then we have C major again. Then we have A harmonic minor again. D harmonic minor again. C major again. And then F melodic minor is the next scale type that comes up in the C section of the tune. That's F melodic minor. And then D melodic minor is this. Okay, you can also just do D harmonic minor on that chord there, which is the fifth measure from the end. And then we have E flat diminished. Okay, E flat's the root there. I love that scale. I have a great video on all about diminished scales. Check that out. There's a link to it in the description, and there's a link to a playlist of all of my scales videos if you want to learn any scale type all over the guitar. Those are all of the scales. It's a lot, but now I'll demonstrate for you what it can feel like and sound like improvising with those scales over the whole form. Yikes, that's a lot of scale changing. I'll be the first to admit that. It does feel good to be able to do it, but some of those scale changes are just unreasonable. Like, I don't really need to think of E flat diminished scale here. I might outline the chord tones a little bit when these things happen fast, but I'm very rarely thinking of a whole scale when chords are moving this fast. Usually chord tones, or thinking of a scale that is just skating over it, which brings us to our simplified scale concept. The simplified scale concept is that you can just ignore stuff that's happening. Like right here, it says C major and C major, C major, C major, C major through all this, including this, right? So if the harmony moves underneath you and you don't address it, that's okay. You want to be able to, if you like that sound, but also it's really a very cool sound to hear the harmony move, be crunchy, and then come back. I mean, this goes out of C major and then back in, C major, out of C major, back in, right? So if you address it, lovely. I love to address it, but also I like to play bigger, broader ideas that don't address the changes. So simplified scale approach is a great way to get into improvising. For all of me, the simplified scales are no different at all from the complete scales all the way up to the C section. So there's these two measures. You can't get away with playing something, different here. You can't really play C major and keep playing C major here. You could try in some cases to do that, like on the A. I'm just thinking, sometimes it's just one note different, but it's too much to think of that. And it's just worth working on actually changing those. Just do it at a slower tempo if you want to. But here's where we get to have fun with, okay, all that stuff was crazy, just C major the whole time. So one note changes in this chord, and it is a really nice note to nail when you're improvising, but you just don't have to. And if you do know what note that is, you can try to avoid it also, but just try to play lyrically, try to play with space, try to play in a way that reacts to yourself with phrasing. There's a phrasing lesson in the description if you want to check out my teaching on phrasing. That comes across as a much better solo than if you nail all this stuff, right? The ideas and the tastefulness and, being sparse, being lyrical, being relaxed, that is what matters more. So it's going to sound fine running through all of this. Now I'll just play you a demonstration of that. I'll still use these same scales up here because we kind of have to, and then I'll just play C major for the rest of it and kind of keep it simple, let it be whatever it is. And that should work as well. Let's do that demonstration. In every video in this series, I'm giving you an internalization tip for how to really deeply know a jazz standard or any song beyond just being able to play it. We want to really feel like we know this song and it is ours. We want to own it. And there are many ways to work on leveling up our musicianship so we are not just pressing buttons on a fretboard, but really expressing ourselves and playing real music. And the tip I want to share with you for this video is that if there are lyrics to a song you're learning, know the lyrics, know it really well. And in a previous video in this series, I talked about tracking the melody, hearing it through the form while you're improvising, while other people are improvising, that's going to help you know where you are in the song. Well, if there are lyrics, you want the lyrics to be attached to that. You're just like hearing where the lyrics are at any point in the song. Not to mention, it's just its own art form altogether, and it will deepen your relationship with this song. And this song sounds so bouncy and fun, but it's this beautiful, tragic song. All of me, why not take all of me? Can't you see I'm no good without you? Take my lips, I want to lose them. Take my arms, I'll never use them. All of me. Oh, it gives me goosebumps to add the lyrics into it. Adds this whole layer of depth. So every single standard that you are working on that has lyrics. Some tunes have lyrics that someone added later that aren't the official lyrics. Some tunes are jazz standards that don't have lyrics, like So What and Impressions, which we did a couple videos ago. So those don't have lyrics, even if someone later sings lyrics to them. I'm talking about the real, true lyrics of the song. If it has lyrics, know them. So this song, All of Me, Autumn Leaves has lyrics. A bunch of other songs in this series have them. So study those, sing them even if you feel like you can't sing. Know them, read them, think of it as a poem, and feel in your heart, what those lyrics mean. And it'll deepen your relationship with the song. And in the end, you'll just play better. You will play way better. You'll sound better. You will know the song better. You'll be a better musician. So that's my tip for this video. Know the lyrics. I'll give you my All of Me guitar listening recommendation in 1 second. But first, we covered a lot of scales in this lesson, and I'm putting this series in order of kind of harmonic difficulty, so it's getting more, there's starting to be more key centers and more potential scales with each of these songs. So you saw how many that we had there. If you want a free PDF download that just has all the scale shapes you could ever need, it's called my Printable Parent Scales PDF. You can download that totally for free by using the link in the top of the description, or go to soundguitarlessons.com/scales. It's quite simple. It's just the 7 parent scales, and the parent scales are the scales that all other modes come from. So the C major scale is a parent scale. The G Mixolydian scale is a mode of that scale. It's the same physical shape, same note collection. You just call a different note the root and you have a mode. So the Dorian mode, D Dorian, is just the C major scale, but D is the root. So those parent scales are the physical shapes and forms that you need to have on the fretboard. Every scale has all the positions. Most of them have 5 different physical shapes, forms, patterns. People call them all of these things. So you can get that totally for free. Again, link in the description, at the top of the description, because there's a bunch of links down there of other resources, or go to soundguitarlessons.com/scales to download that PDF for free. When learning a jazz standard like All of Me and all these songs in this series, your top priority should be playing music, playing specifically a complete version of the song, not just forever playing an exercise on the song. And I love exercises, and I love forever exercises, and I love deep stuff, and I could practice on, the first 2 chords of this for 3 months and not get bored because there's so much you could do with it. But your first goal should be playing a complete version of the song. Play the melody, play the chords, so you can comp on it, be able to improvise a solo on it, even if it doesn't sound good at first, even if you think it's way off from how it should sound. This goal will help you improve faster than any other musical goal, because you're going to be playing real music. You're going to realize where your weaknesses are. You're going to realize what your goals are, and that will tell you what to work on next. Then you can go work on all the exercises that help you sound better on playing the real song. So it gives you a place to apply all of the random tips and tricks that are out there, including all the stuff I teach on my channel, because I teach a lot of that. So when you are ready to level up and sound a little more advanced in your jazz playing, I have compiled a supplementary lesson playlist for you that supplements this jazz standard series, and it covers all the more advanced stuff like chord tone improvisation, chromaticism, chord voicings, jazz theory, and much more. There's a link to that in the description of every video in this series that you can check out when you are ready. Listening to the songs that we are working on is super important. If you want a jazz guitar listening recommendation for All of Me, I recommend Django Reinhardt's version. It's so cool that this song was written and was popular back in the 1930s. So Django Reinhardt, this was during kind of the heyday of swing and gypsy jazz, and he did a version of this song, and because of that, it's also a very popular song in gypsy jazz circles today. A lot of people will play fast gypsy jazz versions of it and rip really fast lead lines and scales over it, but that Django version is just gorgeous. I just absolutely love it. So that's the one I recommend. There is a playlist to all of my listening recommendations in the description, so if you want to go check that out, that is where it is. Make sure you listen to that song or listen to a different version. Just choose a version of any song you're working on. Choose one version and listen to that a bunch and absorb it. That will help you sound a lot better on any song you're trying to work on. And make sure you are subscribed, because I can't wait to see you in my next lesson, where we'll do song number 7 of the top 25 jazz standards for guitar players, which is going to be Take the A Train. Hit that like button and leave a comment to let me know if you liked this lesson. It really, really, really helps the channel. It really helps the lessons more than you know, and it helps other students find these videos who really want to learn about these songs. So please let me know how you're liking it in the comments, and hit that like button. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and happy practicing.